All right. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Film Havens Movie Podium Movie News podcast that we still don't quite have a good name for. This month, we're talking about, obviously, the April movie news. And as you can tell, I'm solo this month just because Matt has been really busy lately, so he can't join us this month. But that's okay. We've got a lot of news to get to, so we need as much time as possible to get through it. So it might be better anyway for me to just kind of run through the numbers here. So anyway, we are going to be doing something just a little bit different this month because, as I talked about last month, with the horror watch thing that I've been doing, let me throw up my fun little thing for it. During my little horror watch, we've been doing movies about, kind of going over movies and thrillers that are coming out the month that we're talking about. So, like for this month, it's April. And we're about to do that in a minute, but I decided that maybe we should talk about movies that are coming out next month instead, right? It's a horror watch. So let's watch out for the movies that are coming out, the new releases. That way you might be able to catch them in theaters. So in order to kind of catch ourselves up, we're going to do the April horror watch because obviously we still need to talk about those movies. And then we're going to move in to the May movie watch, horror watch at the end of the episode. So without further ado, let's get into it. So we're going to get April movie news, and then we're going to talk about top stories, and then May movie news or May horror watch. There you go. Anyway, so first thing out the gate, we got to talk about the April horror watch. And we can't talk about April horror without talking about Sinners, of course, because everyone has been seeing it. Everyone's been talking about it. Everyone's been loving it. And obviously, we can see here at the 8.2 user score, 84 Metascore. It's pretty dang good. And honestly, if you look at Rotten Tomatoes, which is trash, of course, don't ever use Rotten Tomatoes as actual indication of whether a movie is good or not. It's like at 96% or something like that, which is pretty crazy. So all that to be said, I've just noticed, as I talked about, if you've been following my podcast, you know that my last episode last Friday was on Sinners. So if you want to know my thoughts on the movie, you can just go check out that episode. But just on like the more movie news side of things, this movie has been taking like the zeitgeist by storm. And I just got like, I got tons of these. I just took some clips from all these different film reviewers that I follow, being in Filmstagram. I mean, you could just go roll through those again. 9.95, 5 stars, 9 out of 10, 10 out of 10. I mean, I literally, those like five, I just like, they were five posts in a row. That's how many people are talking about this movie and reviewing this movie. It's kind of hard to see something that isn't about Sinners in the Filmstagram kind of feed right now, which is pretty crazy. I mean, that's like, I love that obviously as a horror fan, that a horror movie can have such a big impact. But also it's just kind of, it's definitely newsworthy, right? Because it's in some ways, it's actually apparently making history. We have here Sinners overperformed officials' estimates and actually opened at $48 million domestically. That was last weekend, by the way. And apparently it made history. It's saying here, biggest opening for an original film this decade. So I don't know what they mean by original film. Maybe it's like non-MCU or something like that, or because Ryan Coogler wrote the film. It's very, it's not some kind of like Jurassic Park or some movie that was based on some book or something like that. It's an original movie. Everything about it was original, I guess. So it's kind of making some history in that way. And then also we've got here this past weekend. So this past weekend was the best weekend in cinema for years. And this is why we've got Sinners, who comes in at another $45 million. Now that's this weekend. That means it only dropped $3 million from last weekend, which is insane. But then Revenge of the Sith has its re-release. That had $25 million. The Accountant 2, 24.5, and Minecraft, 22.7. And mind you, Minecraft has been out for like a month now. So the fact that it's got however many $22.7 million and it's like sixth week being open, that's insane in and of itself. So this was the first weekend in at least 2 years where we have 4 different movies that are grossing over $20 million, which is very impressive, honestly. So love that for theaters. I want everybody to go to movie theaters anytime they can. And like I talked about in my episode about Sinners, you really should really check out this movie Sinners in theaters. Like watch it Allie and I watched it at the Dolby Theater in AMC, which is like kind of like a Temu IMAX. So it was really cool because the surround sound and the big screen was huge. It was awesome. So anyway, moving on, we got lots to cover here. So the next thing is Hell of a Summer. So that's another movie that came out this past month. Allie and I actually went to go see that. So we did see it. Honestly, it's a little underrated here. 5.6 and 54 Metascore. It's pretty terrible ratings for how good the movie was. My one complaint about the film was that it wasn't slashery enough. It was supposed to be kind of like a callback to Friday the 13th, and it really delivered on the story and on the laughs. But it didn't deliver on the kills, and that was kind of obviously, as a slasher fan, I was kind of disappointed by that. But still, honestly, personal score 7.5. Very funny movie. If it would have had like good slasher kills, then I would have given it 8.5 easy. But it was like, after I reviewed that movie, The Final Girls, a couple months ago, like around last Halloween, that was like, this movie Hell of a Summer is what I wanted The Final Girls to be. So I was really happy to see that a movie could actually deliver on those laughs without being I don't know, trite. And yeah, Final Girls just wasn't that funny. It was trying too hard. This movie had a nice natural humor. So Hell of a Summer, definitely recommend. I'm not sure if it's still in theaters or not. But a movie I know is in theaters because it just came out last Friday is Until Dawn, which of course is based on the video game Until Dawn, which Allie and I played a long time ago, and it was a really fun experience for us. Now, this movie is not directly related to the video game as far as story goes, but the creators, from what I've heard, I haven't seen it yet, but from what I've heard, they've really tried to kind of implement some of the ideas of a video game. And maybe, like, so in Until Dawn, like, a big part of it is the butterfly effect, right? So it's all about kind of your choices that you make and how that might change the story way later, right? And so this movie is kind of reminds me of like a little bit of like a time loop movie, because just like with like movies like Edge of Tomorrow, right, where it was basically playing a video game, like you keep dying and you come back and you have to figure something out, and the more you die, the more you realize, like, oh, I know how to do this or that. That's kind of what's going on here. They are trying to get out of this house, and every time that they die, they restart at the beginning. So it's time loopy, but I do get it as a video game, right? Like, it's kind of like watching a video game, which is cool. I think it could be good. Like, as we're seeing here, 6.1 and 50 Metascore, not great, but for these kind of movies, like these kind of middlebrow horror movies, that's really to be expected. I think the 6.1 being so much higher than the 50 Metascore is maybe indicative of it being a pretty entertaining film, especially for its genre, if that makes sense. All right, next movie, which I'm so sad. I've tried to see this movie in theaters several times. Drop. That came out this month. The trailer really got me. I like the concept, especially because it kind of feels like a modern day Hitchcock film, like that kind of classic thriller. And I think it's even being kind of labeled as such. I know I saw something about the director saying that he really wanted to do, like, what if you had like a Hitchcock thriller, but phones existed, and specifically the idea of the airdrop, which is really funny to me. So it's like these instant kind of almost offline drops of messages that the person is using to kind of terrorize the main character. So I thought that was a really cool idea. And we see here, out of the movies we've seen so far, this is the highest ratings. And I will say too, 6.5 user and 65 Metascore, that is a really good sign. It means that the movie is consistent. Of course, it's only 8,000 people. Good amount of critics, though, 37. That's actually, for IMDb, pretty high amount of critics. So the fact that the consensus is in the green for the critics is also a good sign. I think this would be one of those movies that'll kind of it's going to be throwaway, but it's also going to be a little bit of one of those kind of, maybe people look back on as being like, oh, that was a classic. Okay, and one thing about it, the main guy in that movie, Brandon Sklenar, who I can never say his name right. He's actually, just like in another bit of movie news, I figured I'd throw that in here. He's going to be playing Batman in the new DCU, which is pretty crazy, or Bruce Wayne. It says here, this is kind of an older post. It says he's in talks, but he's actually been confirmed. He's cast as Batman in the Clayface movie or show. I'm not sure, but he's doing a cameo. And so the James Gunn verse of the DCU, we got our Batman now, and it's the guy. He's kind of the main love interest in this movie. She's going on like a first date, and he's the guy. So thought that was kind of fun. Last movie for April is The Shroud. This is a David Cronenberg movie, new Cronenberg, and it's interesting. Interesting. I'm not sure. It seems like it's kind of slid under the radar. We got Vincent Castle, of course, his classic legendary actor, and of course Diane Kruger as well. These are kind of fun. Actually, kind of fun pairing because these are both two actors that are known for being kind of bilingual and in the international way, kind of scene as well as being in the American scene, which is kind of fun. But it's got a 6.0 and a 69 Metascore. The critics like it as per usual. Cronenberg, it makes those heady movies nowadays that are, I don't know, Crimes of the Future or whatever. It was the last one that, once again, kind of fell under the radar, but was critically, I think people liked it. So I'm not really sure on this one. But yeah, I think this one's still in theaters, The Shroud. So go watch it if you want to. Another Cronenberg movie. That guy's so old now and he's still making these films. So good on him. So moving on to our top stories of the month. Now we've got a lot to get into, so I'm going to not waste too much time. So of course we got the new Star Wars coming out with Sean Levy. I was supposed to have a picture of him up there with Ryan Gosling, but yeah, Sean Levy's making a new movie called Starfighter. Sort of Star Wars Starfighter or something like that. It's supposed to take place directly after the sequel, so Episode 9, Rise of the Skywalker, which was not a great movie. They're still Disney's sticking with the storyline. So, but Sean Levy, of course, famously just did Deadpool 3 and everyone really liked that. So I think it's, possibly in pretty good hands here. One fun thing about it is that Jesse Plemons is in talks to be the villain, which is kind of cool. And of course we got Ryan Gosling leading the cast, kind of a similar vibe to Ryan Reynolds in some ways in the comedy angle. So it could be kind of a fun movie. And when Star Wars is fun, and kind of light, I think it can be really good. So I think that I'm holding back a little bit, but I'm a little excited for what it could be. Funny enough, though, speaking of something funny, Mikey Madison was she was asked to play a character in this Star Wars movie, and she said no. She passed up on it, which I think is hilarious because we just talked about last month that she's going to be, or she's at least in talks to be in the Resident Evil reboot, which is definitely a lot lower brow than Star Wars. But I guess, hey, she knows what she wants. And of course, being from, Scream fame, she likes horror movies maybe more than those big budget franchise films. So yeah, I did read some kind of quote from her saying that she said that she didn't want to be just some like generic girl main character or side character. So she said, like, I either want to be Yoda or I don't want to be anyone. So she got a little cheek to her. I think that's kind of fun. Moving on. Next thing we have here. This one's kind of interesting. I had to do a little bit of research here. So I saw this random post by Spawn Movie 2025 and Heroin Father 147. Yeah. So this is kind of like a random. I didn't even realize I followed this guy, but he posts a lot of like random, like looks like AI, maybe visual effects for like a Spawn. And I'm like, wait, hold on. Because, there's some Instagrams that are like obsessed with certain IPs and they just post about them all the time. Well, this one seems to actually be real. So we see in the background here Blumhouse Productions, and then in the hashtags we see Blumhouse, and I'm like, ooh, wait, what? So I was trying to find this project in IMDb somewhere, and after doing some research, I finally did under Jason Blum, one of the Blum brothers, producing upcoming producing gigs is a movie called King Spawn. So if we see here King Spawn 2025 or King Spawn down here in the hashtags as well, this actually may be happening. I haven't heard much about this. Maybe some of you guys can tell me. But I thought that was pretty fascinating that we have a new Spawn movie coming out after, what was it, 1998 when the last one came out, and wasn't obviously a super good movie. But so it'd be interesting to see them try to do that again. In general, it seems like we're seeing a lot of the 90s coming back a little bit in reboots and all that kind of stuff. So it would be on brand, honestly. And I obviously the Spawn kind of aesthetic, is pretty metal, gothic metal kind of, pretty cool. So I'd be down. Blumhouse, though, obviously has a checkered past with any kind of movie that they produce. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's really not good at all. So maybe not the best production studios to do it, or maybe the best, who knows. Moving on, we got John Wick 5 is officially happening. Keanu Reeves is set to return. So if you didn't see John Wick 4, that is kind of a bit of a spoiler of sorts, but everybody knows. I mean, even watching John Wick 4, he's coming back. Come on. This is too popular of a franchise. It's too profitable of a franchise not to come back. So definitely looking forward to this because the first four are great, especially the last one. I really liked John Wick 4. I thought that was the most fun in the whole series. I feel like they just kept getting better over time. Allie's favorite is 3 because they're running around in the desert. She was like, "What is happening in this movie?" It is like I never thought about how ridiculous the film was until I actually like watched it with Allie, and then I was like, "Oh yeah, that is kind of dumb, huh?" He's like now he's just in the desert walking around. Anyway, John Wick 4 was great. I think it was more consistent. So I'm excited for John Wick 5. This next piece here is really interesting. I think people are gonna latch onto this. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is getting a sequel, and it's not Quentin Tarantino that's directing it. However, it is David Fincher of obvious, like, one of the most famous directors of all time, Fight Club and all kinds, Zodiac and Social Network, and it just goes on and on and on. But he's been doing a lot with Netflix lately, right? He did Mindhunter and he did Mank. I think he's just like permanently with Netflix these days because we see here that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is going to be a Netflix film, the sequel to that. I just can't believe that Quentin Tarantino would even give that film to Netflix. It just doesn't seem like his vibe, but I guess because Fincher is such a legendary director that maybe he thinks it's going to be in good hands. Obviously, Fincher is a good director, so if anyone could do it, it could be him. But I'm trying to think. I mean, Fincher hasn't done that much comedy, if we're going to be honest here. He's usually pretty serious movies, thinking Seven. There is humor in Fight Club. There's humor in Social Network, but I don't know. I think Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has such a Quentin Tarantino vibe. To pass that on to Fincher vibe might be a weird mix. So also, I mean, how many sequels besides Kill Bill Volume 1 and 2 have we seen from Tarantino? None. So that's just all around just a weird vibe for me, but I'm kind of here for it. We like to see some different stuff happening. So moving on, we have our next thing here. So this one's really fun. Finally, a new Oscars category is coming out. A stunt stunt design Oscar, which is really cool. I think it's definitely well deserved. It has been needing to be happening for a long time because stunts are amazing, and the stuff that goes into them is pretty intense. So I'm very excited that we're going to see this. Unfortunately, though, apparently it's not going to be coming around until about 2028, the 2028 Oscars, which is covering the 2027 movies. So not at the next Oscars and not at the one after that, I guess. So it's going to be in like 2 years, which I'm like, what's taking you so long? I don't know. Which obviously, if you look here at the Mission Impossible, that Tom Cruise is going to be really mad about that delay because he could maybe get an Oscar for the new last Mission Impossible that's coming out, which he says is his last one. But I guess he won't be eligible for that, unfortunately. In other Oscar news, this is kind of fun. I guess Oscars, after this last Oscars, they were really trying to make some changes. This is kind of fun. There's a new Oscar rule now that requires voters to actually watch every nominated film, which begs the question, like, how was this not a thing before? And I know that it wasn't a thing before because Amelia Perez got 13 nominations, and it's obvious that the people that voted for those to be nominated did not watch the movie, a lot of them at least, because they were heavily misinformed or misled by what they thought that movie was. And it is one of the worst movies ever made. So I think that's kind of fun, though, that we have these all these people having to watch all these Oscars. And I guess that also means watching like the documentaries and the shorts and the animated film. I mean, that's a lot of movies to watch if you're voting for the Oscars. But at the same time, being able to vote in the Oscars is a big deal. So you should have to watch all these things. I mean, it's kind of a prestigious thing. So I'm definitely for this. That way we can avoid having this issue like we had with Amelia Perez. And I guess in a way, we may see the winners of this next Oscars kind of, it may vary, maybe kind of change the tone a little bit because they actually watch the movies, which so it'll be a little bit different than it's been. Next thing, this is fun, is that Ready or Not, that fun little thriller with Samara Weaving, is getting a sequel, and it's titled, as you would guess, Here I Come. So Ready or Not, and now Here I Come. And the same people that made Ready or Not also did the movie Abigail last year, which I really enjoyed that film. I actually liked it more than Ready or Not. So I feel like them, the directors and the creators and that whole team as a whole is only getting better. And so my issues with Ready or Not were not really that robust. I mean, it wasn't that big. I just kind of wanted a little bit more out of it. So I'm excited to see how in this next one, maybe they will kind of expand a little bit, and kind of see a little bit more action where the other one was more suggestive. Like, I just love the idea of she's in this wedding dress and she's got the bandolier on. You can see it here, and she's got the double barrel shotgun. You're like, oh man, she's really going to use that. It's going to be cool. And then she like shoots it twice and then throws it away. And I'm like, no, I hate when that happens. But the movie had a really good cheek to it. It was really funny. It had a good mix of horror and comedy, and I liked that about it. I think I gave it like a 7 out of 10. And so Abigail was just that, but it actually did deliver on a little bit more. So I gave it an 8 out of 10. So I'm excited for this next sequel. I think it could be really good. All right, moving on. This one's kind of sad. The Batman director, Matt Reeves, confirms that Batman 2 is on the brink of being canceled, which is really sad because Allie and I went to go see The Batman twice in theaters. We really enjoyed that film. I know that it was a bear to film. I know that Matt Reeves and Robert Pattinson really got into it during the filming, and at some point Pattinson said he'll never work with them again. And then, of course, the movie came out and it was amazing. And I'm sure Pattinson watched it and was like, yeah, that movie's pretty good. So he was down to, do it again, but it kept getting delayed. The script isn't even finished yet. And then now that Robert Pattinson has been cast in Dune 3, they're filming that, I think, this fall or this like the end of summer, and that's kind of conflicting with when they wanted to film Batman. So we have this issue, and so now Matt Reeves is kind of being like, oh well, if he's not going to be available, then we're not going to do the movie. And then there was also this like some tea on this whole Matt Reeves thing too, because apparently this kind of famous film critic reported that Matt Reeves, the movie was being delayed because Matt Reeves was sick, like Chadwick Boseman type sick. Like he was like not telling people about it. And in reality, like he just wasn't doing well and he's dying. But it turns out that was totally a lie. So if you heard that, like, don't believe that. The film critic is apparently just insane and was just saying stuff. But it did make like big news for a couple days before it was debunked. So truth is, the movie is taking forever in production, in pre-production. Like I said, the script has had, I think, either rewrites or it hasn't even been finished. Not a good sign. And honestly, I felt like the Batman was so good on its own. It doesn't necessarily need a sequel. Like, Batman movies don't need to be a trilogy. You can just have one and it be good. There's so many different Batman stories to tell, so many different iterations of Batman that you can have. You don't need to expand this universe. I mean, chances are it probably won't be as good as the first one. It's not like impossible. Obviously, Batman Returns, in my opinion, is better than the Batman and the Tim Burton series. But still, I feel like sometimes you just gotta let it go. And if you're having this many issues even from the start, then maybe just let it go. Speaking of other big franchise news, Christopher Nolan is now officially, I kind of hinted at this last month, but he is officially the front runner for the next James Bond movie, which is really fun. I think this could be really good, especially considering that Christopher Nolan is so practical with his stunts. He's very focused on his like anti-CGI kind of stuff. And James Bond has always been kind of a franchise that has been mostly practical effects, practical stunts. And with someone who deals with these kind of stunts in such a kind of genius way, and he really takes it so seriously. I mean, he made Oppenheimer with virtually no CGI, which is pretty insane considering there's literally an atomic bomb in that film. I could definitely see this being a new era of James Bond and a fun era. And one fun thing about that is that apparently Amazon, since they own the rights now from the Broccoli family, they are possibly going to be giving him 100% creative freedom. So that is a double-edged sword, of course, in general, because the Broccoli family has had a really close kind of eye on this franchise for a long time. And I think in general. I think overall the Daniel Craig kind of series was really well done. It was kind of the Casino Royale was amazing. Quantum of Solace was like and then Skyfall was amazing, and then Spectre was and then No Time to Die was pretty good. It was a good way to end the series. So I think they did a pretty good job on that run. And so it'll be really interesting to see what like a no Broccoli family kind of influence is going to be like on a James Bond movie. Are they going to change it too much is the question, because Casino Royale really was a big shakeup to the Bond formula. But then it kind of returned to form as we go along, especially like Spectre, I felt like was a very much like your average Bond film. So I think this will be really interesting, but it is a double-edged sword. But the other side of that edge, the good thing about this is that Christopher Nolan is the one that has the 100% creative freedom. And as we know, he's an incredible director. So anything that he touches is pretty much gold for the most part. Obviously, I have some reservations about some movies like Inception, but for the most part, he's like, he doesn't really miss when he swings. So to give him, and apparently it's also a bit of a passion project for him. He's definitely wanted to do Bond for a long time. So I think if you mix those two things together, we could be seeing something really good in the future. The question is, who's going to be Bond? But anyway, let's move on. Next thing is, I kind of already knew this was coming, of course, but Tim Burton is going to be making a third Beetlejuice, of course. Beetlejuice was pretty good. I definitely for a remake, sequel, requel, whatever that has come out like 40 years after the original, it could have been a lot worse. I think I was okay with it. But because they named it Beetlejuice, I was like, well, they have to do a third one now, because obviously if you say his name 3 times, right? So yeah, as it says here, they're teasing a new sequel at Warner Brothers. So I think it really all depends on whether Michael Keaton's willing to come back, because he had some pretty strict rules about coming back this last time. And he is that kind of actor that doesn't like, I mean, he literally said, I'll do this, but only if I have like 17 minutes of screen time in a movie that's literally named after him. A similar thing he did in Batman too, where he, like in Batman Returns, I think he literally cut the script down. He said, I want to have less lines, which, like, how many actors say that? But anyway, so that's not really too much to talk about there. It's kind of, we knew it was going to happen. I just thought it would be fun to kind of say that it's basically confirmed that that's going to be happening. Another news now, I normally stray away from doing MCU news, Marvel news, but this one is really interesting because as far as like kind of inside baseball industry news, this has been something that's been ticking along for literally like 4 or 5 years now. The Mahershala Ali Blade kind of rebrand is officially canceled, I think. It says reportedly, so I've seen it in a couple places now. It's been in kind of development hell for years now, so it makes sense. Although they did have the caveat in the description that Marvel is looking at using Mahershala for something else, possibly a Midnight Suns show, which could be cool. We haven't seen that yet in movies or anything like that, so it could be a really cool kind of angle for them to go in, kind of a darker, grittier angle, which would make sense, especially if he's going to still be playing Blade. That would be cool. If he could still play Blade, but as a side character and maybe not have a whole thing around him, maybe it'll drum up enough love that they'll decide to do it as a main show. I think that could be cool. And our last bit of, hey, Landon, and our last bit of big kind of top stories of the month, we are talking about the trailer that just dropped a couple days ago for Predator Badlands. Now, I really enjoyed Prey. I thought it was a fun movie. I thought it was a really good kind of reboot of the series, the Predator series, which has, other like Alien series, I mean, other than maybe Alien 3, which has its defenders, for the most part, that series is pretty golden, from Alien to all the way down to the second Prometheus Covenant or whatever, or Alien Covenant. All those movies, for the most part, are at least 7 out of 10 for most people. So Predator, on the other hand, Predator has had issues. Predator 2 is even critically maligned, even though a lot of people like it. Predator 1 is an incredible movie. And then AVP, of course, came out, which as a kid I loved. I think it's a really fun movie. But it was really nice for Dan. Oh, man, I can never say his last name. Trottenberg. I have it written here. Trottenberg, yeah, Dan Trottenberg, who did Prey, who's also directing Predator Badlands. I think it's really cool that we've got a director that's doing 2 movies. And he's also doing an animated film that's coming out, I think, at the end of the month. That's also Predator related. It's like kind of an anthology movie, which is interesting. So he's definitely in Predator mode right now. The cool thing, though, about this trailer is that it showed a lot of little Easter eggs that people were kind of picking up on. And those Easter eggs, which, well, I'll talk about this in a second. The Easter eggs are showing that there is an actual alien connection. So as I just mentioned before, AVP, movie from 2004, big movie of my, being a 10-year-old. I thought it was awesome. But it was critically maligned. People did not like it critically, and I don't think it did incredibly well in the box office either. But I mean, it did it well enough to have a sequel, but that was even worse. So, but the idea of Predators versus aliens is just awesome. And even though the Predator franchise is not nearly as popular as the Alien franchise, or as successful, I should say, they do have such a cool kind of connection to each other, I feel like. And so what's interesting is that whenever Alien Romulus came out and it did so well, and of course Prey came out not too long before that, like a year or so before, and Dan Trottenberg and Fede Alvarez are actually really good friends in real life, and almost immediately after Alien Romulus came out, they had said, I think it was Alvarez said he would be so down to do an Alien versus Predator with Dan Trottenberg. He said the only way I'll do it is if he's also co-directing. And his idea is that he will make the Alien side of the movie, and then Trottenberg will make the Predator side of the movie, which I'm like, that sounds like a production nightmare. But these two guys are obviously really good directors, especially Fede Alvarez. I mean, he doesn't miss. Talk about someone that doesn't miss. So the thing here is that Trottenberg is making the sequel for Predator, and now we have actual confirmed direct tie-ins to the Alien universe. In fact, Elle Fanning's character in this movie is an android he's a Weyland-Yutani android, which is like the same as like David from Prometheus. So we actually, I mean, she's one of the main characters of this movie. It's her and this Predator guy here. One of the interesting things already from Predator is this movie, Predator Badlands, is that the Predator is the main character this time. He's not the bad guy. Is the good guy. And it's kind of like I said, first hunt, last chance. So he's kind of, I'm getting a little bit like Stranger in a Strange Land kind of vibes, where he's going to be dropped off at this alien world to him. Like it's alien to him, even though he's technically the alien in a lot of the other movies. And it's his first hunt. So it's a bit of almost like an origin story of sorts, which is funny because Prey almost felt like an origin story because it took place, with Native Americans. But I really like this idea. And like you said, Landon, the trailer looks really good. Looks action-packed, looks very world-buildy, lots of lore to discover. And then we have another thing here that someone noticed, which was the Weyland Corporation logo is just in the background on the trailer as well. So, I mean, this is not just like, hey, AVP is going to happen, an AVP reboot is going to happen in the future. This is like, we are in this next movie. We've already gotten the go ahead. We are connecting the Alien and the Predator franchises together again. And people even noticed because there was a shot in the trailer of all the the trophy room of the Predators, which is a famous kind of thing in all the movies. And people were already making connections. So one of the big things too, and this is actually a real connection that people have made, is this big alien in the middle is the same alien skull as the one from Independence Day. And so they're like mixing Independence Day lore possibly with alien lore. And I thought this was a fascinating one too. The second slide here, which is the engineers from Prometheus. And so I could definitely see that skull being an engineer skull. Definitely makes sense to me because they are kind of humanoid, but just bigger. Of course, we got the T-Rex here, so maybe we're bringing Jurassic Park into this. Who knows? And then we've got the monkey here. So I don't know. I mean, this Planet of the Apes. It's limitless. I can see that for Predator not being its best, the best franchise itself. If you just kind of fold all the other franchises in, then maybe it'll kind of rising tide lifts all boats, right? But anyway, I thought that was really fun. I think it's really cool that these kind of big budget films, especially considering that these franchises are being taken over in some ways by these newer directors that are very capable, like Dan Trottenberg, like Fede Alvarez. They're kind of, it's like a new echelon of directors who are actually handling these IPs in a way that is serviceable, like people actually like it. And like I said, and like you said, Landon, AVP was a good movie for as a positive childhood experience for a lot of people that grew up and watched that movie. I thought it was a really cool film, even though it was a little hokey going back. The actual elements that they put in there is just really interesting, and if you do it right, it could be really successful. So I'm very excited about that. So that's it for the top news of this week. Let's get back into the horror watch. This time we're going to be talking about movies that are coming out in May. So this time we're actually doing a horror watch. These are the movies to be looking for in theaters coming out next month. So the first one, this one's really fun. Some of you probably have already seen this. It's The Surfer with Nicolas Cage. Now this is actually coming out pretty soon. Let's see here. I think I have it down here. It's May 2nd. So this Friday, I think, is when that is. And this one's more of a thriller, not really much of a horror movie. But let me just read the description. I'm going to read the description of these just because they haven't come out yet, so it might pique your interest. So for The Surfer, a man returns to the idyllic beach of his childhood to surf with his son. When he is humiliated by a group of locals, the man is drawn into a conflict that keeps rising and pushes him to his breaking point. So this seems like one of those just like fever dream films. When you see the trailer, it's like so simple that it becomes like insane. Like I'm seeing the trailer here and it says 99 minutes of sun-beaten horror. So it's supposed to be a thriller movie, but there's maybe some horror vibes here. It seems really interesting. Like Nick Cage can't let it go, and so he starts this like kind of fight that ends up being deadly or something. I think it looks fun. And it's this classic kind of Nick Cage kind of meta, like offbeat role. It's very Nick Cage. So I think it could be really good. It might be his good movie of the year. So yeah, that one comes out May 2nd. This Friday. Next movie we're going to talk about is Clown in a Cornfield, which some of you also, if you've been paying attention, you might have heard that this is coming out. But this one kind of also gives a vibe of like maybe like Thanksgiving from a couple of years ago, or this kind of slasher movies that are hyper violent, but also just a little cheeky, a little tongue in cheek, a little funny, very self aware. Which I'm down for, and apparently it's based on a novel too. So this is a book, so it's got some maybe like some solid foundation there, which I think is cool. The movie comes out in May 9th, and let's just read the description. Like I said, I was going to do that for all these. A fading Midwestern town in which Friendo the clown, a symbol of a bygone success, reemerges as a terrifying scourge. So we got this like I guess town mascot that is coming back right as this town is dying and is deciding to I don't know. This is probably some metaphor there. But anyway, so the next movie we're going to be talking about is Bring Her Back, which for those of you that don't know about this one's kind of flying under the radar a little bit, which I think is pretty crazy considering how successful these guys' last movie was. So this is done by the Philippou brothers, which you might remember their last movie, Talk to Me, which was an incredible film that was very well received, even by me and Allie. Both of us really liked that movie, and it was actually, let's see, I think it won the number one spot for my favorite movie of 2023 in my horror roundup. So Talk to Me was really good. So I don't know much about what Bring Her Back is, but it looks pretty scary. And Talk to Me was pretty scary, so I'm excited for that. I'll read the description here. A brother and sister uncover a terrifying ritual at the secluded home of their new foster mother. And the foster mother is being played by Sally Hawkins, which you might remember her from the fish movie. Shape of Water, right? She was the mute in that movie, and she's been in a bunch of other stuff. So it's interesting to see kind of a bigger actor here in this film. And just from the trailer, it looks pretty esoteric. It looks pretty kind of culty and like ritualistic and scary. Love that. I think it could be really good. Next movie here. This one's a little shocky, of course. We have Final Destination Bloodlines. It's the first Final Destination movie in a long time. I want to say it's been since the kind of somewhat reboot. They did Final. It was the fifth one, but they called it just Final Destination. And I don't know. I haven't seen them past three. The first three is the only ones I've seen. But people are actually pretty excited for this one. It seems like maybe there's a bit of a return to form, or maybe pushing into a new form. I think that they're kind of leaning into almost the humor of it, because in a way, Final Destination is super gimmicky, right? It's like, oh, all these crazy things have to happen in this one way so that someone dies, right? And so it's kind of hokey to begin with, and the fact that the franchise has taken itself so seriously for the most part is maybe a bad move. One of the reasons why the franchise hasn't had an entry in a long time. So I think from the trailer that I've seen, it seems like it's going to lean in a little bit more, be a little bit more self-aware, which I think could be a really good thing. So I'll actually might check this one out just for the interesting creative kills. I saw one where it's like a piece of glass falls into an ice scooper and someone scoops the ice and puts it into a drink, and you're like, uh-oh, what's going to happen there? Anyway, next movie we have is The Ugly Stepsister. Now, this one's coming direct from streaming. I believe it's a Shudder original, and that'll be coming out. Oh, yeah, let me go back. Clown in the Cornfield, May 9th, I said that. Bring Her Back is May 30th, so it's the end of the month. And then Bloodlines, oh, I don't actually have the thing for that, but it's coming out this month, obviously, and I think it might even be streaming as well somewhere. Also, Tony Todd is in that film. It's his last, Candyman, of course, and that was his last film before he died recently. So, for those of you Tony Todd fans, that'll be a fun little last watch for him. So anyway, going back, The Ugly Stepsister. This one's really interesting. It's kind of giving me like the jealousy thriller vibes, which those can be really fun movies. Kind of, like what's the movie Single White Female? But it's kind of, I think it's supposed to be like a dark Cinderella, right? Like a dark take on the Cinderella idea. So I'll just read it. Follows Elvira as she battles against her gorgeous stepsister in a realm where beauty reigns supreme. She resorts to extreme measures to captivate the prince amidst a ruthless competition for physical perfection. So it's like, I guess it's that whole Cinderella thing where they're looking for the glass slipper, and in this world that's like beauty standards, and the ugly stepsister is trying to win the day or win the prince, and maybe some more macabre ways, right? So I think that could be kind of fun. I like that idea. It's always fun to see kind of like a distorted fairy tale, because obviously the original Grimm fairy tales were a lot darker than what Disney turned them into. So to see them kind of distorted once again, I think it's kind of fun. Okay, so the next movie, and I hate this I hate this poster. It makes me feel very uncomfortable. It's called Hurry Up Tomorrow, and that is The Weeknd, by the way. If your eyes are correct, if you think that's him and Jenna Ortega are in this movie, and I have not heard anything about this film other than that it's coming out this month. But it's supposed to be a horror movie. Seems like maybe it's kind of cerebral or something. But yeah, I mean, you'd think with The Weeknd leading, and also, of course, like, the horror world's it girl right now, Jenna Ortega, being in this movie, you'd think that it would have more kind of buzz around it, but no one's talking about it, at least not around like Filmstagram where I'm looking. So I'm interested to see. Actually, I'm not. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not interested, because the poster makes me very uncomfortable. It just doesn't look like a movie I want to watch. But we'll see what the reviews are. Maybe I'll check it out. I think it comes out about middle of the month, so be checking that out on your theater lists. And then for our last movie, we've got this one I'm actually really excited for. That's Fear Street Prom Queen. So Allie and I watched the Fear Street kind of trilogy that came out a few years ago on Netflix, and we really enjoyed that. They weren't like perfect, but for a good weekend watch, it was like just what we needed. It's got a good mix of kind of self-aware, like pseudo 80s and 90s. Actually, right, like they take place in different time periods. Like the first one was the 90s, and the second one's the 70s, and then the third one was like Puritan times. So this one is obviously in the 80s. I think its original title was Fear Street 1988 Prom Queen, but they kind of reduced it a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it's a classic R.L. Stine kind of vibe, but with a little bit more adult. So I think it could be a fun movie, and it'll be on Netflix, of course, just like the other ones. And I think that one comes out May 23rd. So I think that could be a really fun movie. I think Allie and I will definitely be checking it out when it comes out. But yeah, so we made pretty good time here. We had a lot to get into, but I guess not having Matt to bounce off of, we got through it a little bit faster. Hopefully he'll be back next month, and we can have a little bit more bantering and get some more comments from him on what he thinks about some of this news. But for now, I think that's it for this week. Thank you all for everyone who tuned in. And of course, this episode will be up on my Spotify and my YouTube whenever it finishes, when we get done here. So if you missed some of it or wanted to look at more of the news, then just go back to my Spotify page and you can watch the whole thing in its entirety. So thank you everyone for joining, and you can check out the next episode of Film Haven Reviews next Friday. All right, bye.